All right, what's happening, folks? Sorry about that. So I ended up, so I got a package right at the last second, these white pens that I needed yesterday. Anyway, and then I went live for about a minute, or I started streaming, and I didn't actually click the go live button on YouTube, so that's a big problem here. So I got everything set up. I had a little different. It's a different setup today with Photoshop, so I had to kind of mess with that a little bit. I forgot I was doing the. I didn't forget I was doing the critiques, but I forgot that I have a little different setup when I'm doing these. So yeah, I got these new pens now. Sorry for the delay, folks, but let's get into it now. No, it was not someone from the census. I did the census thing, so yeah. Let me see if I can get this critique thing going. Let me see. Video cap. Okay, video display. There we go. Okay, I think we're in business now, folks. Hopefully you guys can see that. Try to get it a little more situated here. Boom. I think that's. Let me see if I click that large. Can everybody see the whole thing? There we go. Okay. That's probably going to be the best view. So check it out. All right. Whew. Sorry about that, folks. Just a little late, but no worries. We're in business here. So we got a lot of submissions today. I'll try to get through these pretty quickly. I should have had my timer. I need like a timer. Otherwise, I'm going to keep, I'm going to talk too long for every person. So let me get a timer real quick. So yeah, this is a pretty good one. Let me see. Yeah, we'll start here. Why not? Let's just not worry. So we'll do like 3 minutes for each one, right? Because I got like 14, I think. So there's a lot to get through. I hope I didn't miss anyone. I made sure to go through all my emails, and I don't think I missed anyone. So let's see if I can do this. So this first one here, let's start this. Oh, sorry folks, way too loud. Sorry about that. Start this timer. So check it out. This first one looks like watercolor. So if you look at it closer, definitely watercolor. So that's pretty cool. The sky is done really well. Looks like wet into wet, real soft. I think everything's looking pretty well on this one. You know, you can see the composition here. We got this diagonal going across. A lot of movement in this painting. We have a trail right here off to the side, and then we kind of get led this way. Back into the center. Wish I had a mouse pad or something. This is not working. All right. The shadow over here leads us there. So it's very interesting. And I like the mountains in the background leading us back into the other, back to this right side. Yeah, sorry, folks. Sorry about that sound, folks. It won't happen again. I turned it down. So, so yeah, the composition is pretty nice. I mean, I like what's going on here. This canyon and stuff. The only few things, I feel like maybe the foreground was overdone just a little bit down here. You know, this bunch of grass right here looks very similar to this bunch, which it's not exactly a bad thing because all the grasses are very similar there, but I think we could have just varied this up a bit and maybe simplified it a bit more. But I do like how you simplified it back here in the background, and it gets more detailed as we get towards us. I mean, that's really how it should be. You did the same thing on this side over here, the canyons on the left side. Much simpler as it fades. So that's really nice work in that regard. The one thing that really bothers me is the value of this shadow. That's the one thing that kind of puts that I wish, you know, when I see this small, it makes sense. Like, okay, when I see that, I'm like, all right, that makes sense to me. Like having it that dark, it shows that it's very bright light during the day. But I feel like since we're looking down into this canyon, we can see this little river down here, it looks like. And, okay, 3 minutes is up, but I'm going to go one more minute because I want to finish this. So we have this little river down here that's reflecting light from the sky above. I feel like there should just be a little more reflected light, like on the ground part. Maybe you could leave the canyon, the side of the canyon that dark. I mean, you could add in a little bit more. You know, I'm not even sure how it would look. So let's just try something, you know. Maybe some kind of cooler shadow. More like reflected light. So if you had some kind of blue, you know, just reflecting the sky down here in certain areas. Or this whole shape. Just showing that this is the ground compared to the side of the canyon. You know, something very subtle. It doesn't have to, obviously you want to keep the same value as the whole shadow. Like, so when you squint at it, you want it to still be in the shadow. You don't want the value to be so light that you're confusing light versus shadow. But I just feel like maybe a little more reflected light in this shadow. And like I said, you know, I'm not 100% sure about this. This is just an idea. But maybe just having some reflected lights here, very subtle. And I know that's very hard to do with watercolor for the most part. But I think, you know, just some more coolness. Really get the warm versus cool going on a bit more in this painting. And I think the shadows is where you could put a little more color. Like this, just something like that. But, you know, does that really enhance it? Maybe not the way that I did it, but you know, it's just I feel like I want to just see a little more into that shadow, because I feel like I'm trying to figure out like what is the focal point here, and I feel like this canyon like snaking back around and this little river down here, I feel like that really is what intrigues me, this whole shadowy area, because it's very mysterious the way you painted it, which is good. It's cool. So in that regard, you know, I'm torn on this one. I'm torn on this one because it looks nice like this, the value structure, but I wish I could see a little bit more into that shadow. That's all. Other than that, I like the simplification of the mountains back here. Really great shapes. You know, great grasses in the foreground. The simplification's great. The composition's pretty good. You know, we got this S kind of curve going on, Z curves and stuff. Yeah, I just wish I could see a little bit more into that. But other than that, great work for sure. I'm digging it. If anybody has any comments, just feel free to post in the chat for sure. But I'm going to move on to the next one here. Let's put on the timer again. There we go. Not as loud that time, guys. There you go. Sorry if I broke anyone's ears with that other sound. So this looks like a graphite drawing. Pretty cool. Really interesting style. As far as the shading goes and stuff, the background, it's really cool. I think the values are done really well. A lot of little subtleties and stuff going on in the face, so that's nice. And it looks like the rest is pretty simplified, you know. Not a whole lot going on down here. Just enough detail to get the idea of what he's wearing and the hat and everything. Yeah, the picture's a little blurry, but that's okay. We'll just work with what we got. I'm not sure how many pencils you had. It looks like you tried to go dark, but I feel like you could go a lot darker if you had like a set of drawing pencils. I'm not 100% sure about that. Could just be the photo. But you did get a good range of values with whatever pencils you did have in this drawing. There's a good range, you know, darks on the lips, on the nose, eyes, and on the suit. You know, it's dark enough to where it does make sense. I like the reflected lights here in the shadows. Those are, you know, those are still in the shadows. I mean, they might be a little bit light, a little bright there, but I'm not too worried about it. It's, you know, when I squint, you know, they're a little light. What else? What else here? You know, I'm not seeing a whole lot, to be honest. The only other thing is, like, I always like playing around with the edges. I feel like some of the face, like maybe right here or up by the nose or something, or the eye, like I feel like we could just lose that in the background. Like I feel like we could just completely lose that edge, lose that dark line you have a little bit, and you kind of did it. You know, it gets darker right here, lighter here, so it's not too bad. But I would just really push the softness, like soften up some of the sides of the lip, soften up some of the nose. I would just try to soften some things, but it's kind of stylistic, you know, in that regard. You know, maybe lose some of the details in the ear. Like the ear is not really that important. Like you could just, you know, some of these highlights and stuff in that ear, I would just kill some of that. Like it's not necessary for the rest of the portrait. Do we know who did what? This is by Betty B. You know, I don't know if people really want to put their names out there, but yeah, this is by Betty, as far as I know. And some people didn't give their actual names and stuff, so I don't know really who did what, to be honest. But I do have I do have them labeled as name, first name, last initial, stuff like that. But some of these people may not be in the chat right now anyway. So, but yeah, this is really nice. Really, like overall, really nice details. I was kind of nitpicking it, you know, for the most part. I also feel like maybe some of the background could have been darker in some area and lighter in another, like maybe like a vignetting type of thing, or like just darker on one side to kind of lose some of the, or maybe darker in front of the face so that the face pops out a bit more. You know, there's all kinds of ideas. What software am I using? This is Photoshop. Maybe soften the edge of the shadow on the chin or the highlight. Yeah, exactly. This thing, like this square here, these lights. I feel like you could just fade those a little bit more into the shadow. Because they're a little bright. They look a little bright to me. Like I feel like we could just tone those down a little bit. You know, just push those back into the shadow. They don't need to be that light. And this ear could, let's see if I get it darker. Like this ear overall could just be like, you know, doesn't have to stick out as much. You know, I don't know. It's just ideas, you know. You still get the idea. Maybe that's a little too much. You know, maybe we could just bring that back out just a little bit. You know, you want to show that there's light highlights and stuff, but otherwise it's a little too bright. You know, if you just tone those down a little bit, you get more focus on the face rather than those like highlights there, reflected lights. But other than that, you know, just messing with the background, playing around with edges and stuff. Other than that, it's done really well. The proportions look really nice as far as I can tell. Values are pretty good. You know, everything's done really well. The shading, the style, you know, it all makes sense to me. Let's go on to the next one. Try to keep this structured as possible. Yeah, darker with the background closer to the face. That's what I said. I want a real painting drawn from your hands, not from computer. These are all drawn by hand. I don't know what you're talking about, but these are all photos. Anyway. So this is someone sent this in. This is they followed a. This is by Creative Ink, and they sent this in. This is from, they followed a graphite tutorial, but they use like a wax crayon, so it gives a real interesting texture. Definitely interesting. I don't know if the photo is not the greatest, so it's hard to tell if the angle of the photo is kind of warping the perspective of this ceramic, container or whatever this is. It's hard to tell. Sometimes I understand people, they don't have the best camera or able to take the best photos, but we just work what we have. I think the value is really nice. I like the texture of the crayon. I think it's pretty cool. I feel like the background, I like that you did the background around some of it to really reveal the shape of the object, but I feel like you could have just done more with the background, like just darken the whole background, like this whole handle, like darken all that in the center of the handle, darken the, just a little bit more of the background, making the object really pop out more from the white paper. Other than that, I don't have too much to really say about it, because like I said, it's kind of hard to judge the proportions and things just with the way the photo is. It looks pretty good from what I see. The perspective may be off a little bit, just with the top of this jug. Maybe it should be a little more tighter of an oval, not as tall. Here should be a little more tighter, or maybe the bottom should be more round. Values are pretty nice from what I can see. Yeah, like I said, some of these are just really hard to, when you look at it, it's not too bad. I feel like some of the shading could have been a little more subtle. I know it's hard without like a wax crayon, but maybe you could have darkened some of the inside, the edge of the inside a bit, and then kind of fade this shadow out a bit. Because it's missing in some areas. It's just missing a little bit of subtlety in some areas. But overall, really not a bad effort with the tool you were using. That seems like a pretty challenging thing to draw with. So yeah, you're right, Nathan. It kind of looks like one of those, like what are those things called? Like those wax pencils or something? Like the ones where you pull the string and that's how it like sharpens it or whatever. I haven't seen those since I was like a kid. Those were pretty cool. Yeah, I wonder what kind of, but this, not a bad effort by Creative Ink there. So thanks for sending this in. Yeah, I would just, once again, I just darken more of the background to really pop this white object off the page, and just work on a little more subtlety in the shadows if you can. And yeah, China pencil. I'm gonna have to look that up and see, like, what are those, like, what is it graphite, or like what is it made of? I thought it was some kind of like wax or something, but this person didn't really leave their name, so I'm not sure who did it. Their email was pretty long too. I think Elvina B or something, Elvina something, but anyway, this looks like graphite. Looks like a larger drawing. Maybe like 18 by 24 or something like that. 11 by 17. I don't know. Looks pretty big, like some kind of still life. Maybe for school or something. I don't remember what they said. I don't think there was any special occasion for this, but I like the style. I really like the style of the drawing. I think this teapot over here, this kettle type thing, I think this is drawn really well. I love the subtle curves you got here. Like the perspective is really nice on this. I love the style of the shading, the style of the drawing. The only thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is this vase, like how it's just completely flat on the bottom. And the perspective looks a little funny, but it does kind of fit. It really does kind of fit the style of what you were doing. Like this object in the front here, I'm not sure what that is, but that one looks really three-dimensional. Really looks like it pops out. You know, you have these different forms. You know, this form on the side. I forgot to start the timer. Let's do a 2-minute timer this time for that one. So you have these forms on the side. I mean, this really looks like it's rounded. And the teapot, this kettle back here, or whatever that is, that looks pretty rounded too, a little flat on the bottom. But that looks pretty round. Like I'm getting the idea that it's round. But this vase here looks a bit flat compared to the other two. I feel like the curves are just a bit off. You have them a little too flat. It looks like it's like bowing in in the middle, because the curve isn't like an oval all the way around. You have it like, yeah, the form is a little bit off on this vase. I'm making reviews. I'm doing critiques, so I'm just giving people advice on how they could improve this possibly, or, you know, stuff like that. What's good about it, what's off about it, stuff like that. But I don't know that this is charcoal. I think charcoal would be much darker. It could be charcoal. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, or you mean the pencils? I think she's lagging. But the China pencils, this might be charcoal. But yeah, this looks like graphite. I mean, the values are done really well. You know, you have a very subtle value. You know, you have the highlights here, midtones for the vase, shadows. You know, and the shadows on this vase are darker than these other objects. So these are telling me that these are lighter objects. So you have a good value structure here with what you were working with. I feel like possibly it could have gone darker overall. If you had like more pencils, you know, like darker pencils and stuff. That's just a preference of mine though. Like it does look okay. I feel like these curtains back here, it's a little distracting. That kind of shading, it kind of fits the rest of this, but it's just since it's so dark and so bold back there, and the strokes are so bold, it's kind of like it's a little distracting compared to like the subtlety of this vase, you know. I like the contrast though. I like the contrast between the subtlety of these strokes and the boldness of the background. Like I do see how it does contrast against the objects, but maybe a little too much there, you know. Just that's what I'm saying. But yeah, interesting style, really interesting style. You know, all the edges are pretty hard, and I think that's okay for this style. I think it works. You know, you kind of have this, what would you call it, like somewhat realistic style, but your style is partly flat looking too. So it's really interesting. You know, I think that's pretty interesting. So thanks for sending that in. So we have Enrique S. I think he's in the, I don't know if he's here today. I haven't seen him yet. I don't think so. Maybe I did. Oh yeah, he was here. Enrique's here, or he was. He hasn't said anything in a while, but he was definitely here. But so check it out. We have Enrique here. Let me start the timer. 3 minutes, or 2 minutes, I guess. We'll do 2 minutes, but I'll talk a little bit longer if I have more to say. But yeah, the other one, good point, Nathan, has an Art Deco feel, and somebody else said it has a real humble feel to it. Yeah, I agree. This one's pretty good. But okay, Enrique says this is graphite and charcoal, so that's really interesting. That's a really interesting mix. I've done that as well before. I think it's helpful because charcoal, it can be pretty difficult to control and get really subtle values that you want to get. And okay, buddy, come here. We have a kitty. I know. Come here. So, yeah, the graphite helps get a little more subtlety. I think. That's my opinion on it. But overall, this is pretty nice. This is pretty nice. Is that on canvas? Did you draw this on canvas or something? That looks it's pretty interesting. Or it's like some kind of textured paper. Yeah, the dinging sound is my timer that I'm using. So this is pretty good. This is really good. I think the only thing, you know, the values are really nice. You have that bright white hat contrasting, really sticking out. I like that. The proportions are done really well. You can tell it's a kid. It's a small child. You know, the eyes are bigger and stuff compared to the head. The head's a bit bigger. You can just tell it's a kid. The features take up more of the face. Like I said, I'm gonna go like 1 or 2 more minutes. So this is done. This is done really well. The only trying to think. So what I would. So if this was me drawing this, and like, what would I do to this? I think most people are gonna already know what I'm gonna say, but. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Enrique. You have problems in the white parts. Yeah, I agree here. I think all of this is the same value. You see these outlines, same value and same width, like width of the strokes. I think you need to vary that a little bit. I think it just needs more variation. So what I mean by that is, here, I'll try to fix some of this up a bit, or just demonstrate a little bit. So if we take this color and kind of like, let's lighten up some of this stuff that's back here, because since it's kind of further away from us, you know, you don't need all these wrinkles, you know, maybe just the major ones. But see what I'm saying? Like just a little bit of variation, losing some of the tail end of that, or just losing some of the, having some lost edges and stuff, because you have a single width the whole way, single width, single value. So I think like varying that up, especially once it goes like when it's curving away from us, either darken it up or lighten it up. You know, I feel like this edge back here, you could really experiment with that and just lose that whole thing into the background a little bit. You know, maybe that's a little too much, but you know, just try to lose some edges here a bit. Mostly, definitely down here. I would like play around with like really blurring some of this. I'm using a very textured brush, but you know, just losing some of the edges here, and this point of the shirt that's sticking out, it just makes the structure of his body look a bit odd. Even though I know it's like a wrinkle and a fold sticking out, but I would like really tone that down, possibly. Because it just gives a weird look, you know. And most of the bottom of this isn't really the important part, you know. Like you could lose a lot of this, make a lot of this much softer down here. Like what I mean by that is like fade it into the background, like, and have shadows under here. You know, depending on where the light source is coming from, it's a little hard to tell, but like I feel like he would have shadows underneath his arms down here. You know, like I would just make all this shadowy, because like I said, depends on the light source. If the light's like coming from the front, like directly from the front, then this would be lit up. But just shadowing a lot of this and just simplifying it a bit more, because the important part's the face, you know. I think just focusing, you know, really just softening some of this stuff. Because it's not important, you know. The face is important, you know, and when you take all this away, you know, you can really, you see where the focal point ends up, you know, just trying to move move towards the focal point a bit and really soften up some of the clothes, some of the lines of the clothes. You know, just try to remember your focal point. Like, why are you drawing this? What's it about? You know, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Like, you do have, I do like how the neck back here gets lost into the background. That's pretty cool. I like that. The ears is not overdone. Maybe the outline is a little too much. Like, I would just get rid of that outlining around the ear. You know, you don't need a dark line around that. Like, I would just soften a lot of this. But maybe that's a little too much, but you get the idea. You know what I mean? Like, just get rid of some of that dark. Like, see, you have like a dark outline around this hat. Like, don't put a dark outline. Like, just because once you put an outline like that, it becomes like cartoony. You know, it loses a little bit of realism. So if you're gonna have a dark outline like that, you want to fade that more back into the shadow to make it look like this is curving, turning into the shadow, into the background. Yeah, like I said, this is just stuff to play around with. This is just stuff to think about. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever, but you know, it's just softening some things up, get more of the focal point on the face, and but yeah, just be careful with these lines. Like I said, hopefully that helped you out a little bit, showing, you know, just especially right in here that I did this little bit. If you guys pay attention right here in the middle, right there, like, just see the difference between, you know, just getting rid of some of that, because you don't need all the details of the wrinkles. I know you want to show that it's wrinkled there, but really just focus on like some of the main wrinkles in the clothes and just vary up some of the lines a bit, and keep that focus on the face. You know, all this doesn't really, it doesn't really affect us, you know, like it doesn't really make or break. You know, see that? It just looks a little weird, but it's not bad to have all that detail down there and stuff. Like, there's a time and place for that. But I feel like in this instance, like, this is just one idea, like how to, you know, make this a little more interesting, because all this white down here really catches my attention. So against this dark background. So if you just kind of blend that, make it more, actually what I'm just trying to say is put him into the environment. Like, you know, he's enveloped by this atmosphere, you know what I mean? So without that, it almost looks like he's just the background and he's like pasted on there, you know what I mean? Like, it looks like he's separate from the background. But once you have like this little bit of atmosphere in there, you lose some of the edges, you know, it becomes, these things kind of merge, they become one. So I hope that makes sense. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. I spent a little too much time there, but hope that helped you out, Enrique. Thanks for sending that, really appreciate it, and did my best there to help you out. But so this next one, we have a portrait here. They said this was like a reference drawing, so maybe they drew this as a reference for some other piece they were gonna do like a final of. They didn't really explain much for this one. Yeah, I'm trying, Sergio. I'm trying, man. Do you have to donate? No, you don't. You don't have to donate. What? Donate for what? What are you asking? I don't see a question. How to submit art for review? You send it to my email, info@schaeferfineart.com. Might as well take a short intermission, just to let you guys know. You can check out schaeferfineart.com. I have a contact page on there. He has my email. That little envelope icon on my website, when you see that, you click that, that's my email. But I also have drawings for sale, have some watercolors and gouache paintings for sale. Definitely check it out. And there's also ways to support me on there. You can donate to me if you feel like what I give you is valuable. You know, you can support me on Patreon or join here as a member on YouTube, or you can check out my music that I create in my spare time, my Bandcamp page. Definitely check all that out at schaeferfineart.com. Thank you, guys. So Games 56. I'm reading the chat. I don't see what you're asking about, but anyway. So this next one here, you know, this is really a different style for me. I don't really know how I can critique this. I'm gonna do my best. You don't have to donate to submit a piece to review. It's just, you know, it's just Emerge VS. I hope I just answered your question. Check the chat for my email, info@schaeferfineart.com. Send that to me and put in the subject like critique number 90, live stream number 90, just so I know what it's for. All right, let's get into this one. So and this is, you know, this isn't really the style that I do, so it's gonna be hard for me to put, you know, I'm gonna do my best here, folks. I don't even know how this thing was colored in. Looks like maybe crayon, color pencil. Doesn't look like color pencil. Crayon maybe, oil pastels. It's really hard to tell. I'm trying to figure out that background. I think to be honest, I think the background color is just a little too much. I feel like the green, I mean, I know since you're using like crayons or something like that, you can't really mix your own color. So that's why it's hard for me to critique this. But, you know, I think overall the portrait's nice. I feel like it's almost a bit squished. Like they need to be a little more taller to be, like everything should just be stretched taller. So here, I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. Possibly. I feel like if everything was just stretched like this, it'd look a little more realistic. You guys see what I'm talking about? Like, but that may not be the style you're kind of going for. Why is the screen black? Okay, sorry folks. All right, let me start over. Okay. Sorry, folks. I wasn't paying attention. That's why somebody was texting me, because I'm not paying attention. Okay. Sorry, folks. I clicked the wrong thing on my OBS. I'm used to going back to my other camera, not the Photoshop thing. All right. Let's start over. Okay. So this one, pretty cool. Like I said, don't know if this one's like oil. Thanks everybody for pointing that out. Sorry I didn't look at the chat. I was so focused on what I was doing. But thanks for staying patient, guys. Appreciate it. Doing my best here. Doing my best. So I can't tell if this is like oil pastels or crayon or whatever. Like I was saying, I'm not 100% sure. It looks like some kind of crayon, oil pastel, something. I think the green background is a little just too strong, a little too much. I mean, it definitely makes the figure pop out. It's pretty cool, but I feel like if I was painting this or something, like if there was a little, just a bit more neutral of a color for a background, because the background is very saturated, but then the portrait is very toned down, very neutral, very soft. And I feel like we just want to be careful there with what the focus is. Someone pointed out the right eye looks a little bit smaller than the other one, or the left eye here. I agree. Do I think it's a big deal? Not too much. Just let me check it. Okay. That was an old text. Okay. So yeah, I don't know that the eye being that much smaller is that big of a deal, but I get what you're saying. If you do want it to be accurate, this one would be a little bit bigger than this one because it's closer towards us. So it does look like a bit flat. So what I was saying before I realized my screen was completely black and you guys couldn't see because I'm an idiot, I feel like if this was just stretched a bit more like this, it actually looks a little more realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like just the proportions and everything looks more human, just looks a little more realistic, but that may not be the style that they were going for. So see, when I do this now, it just looks a bit squished. Everything looks very squished. But overall, I mean, as a character or something, like, this isn't that bad. You know, this isn't bad. I mean, you have great line work, you know, a little more, you know, dynamic line work here. I feel like it could be a little bit more dynamic in some areas, like really thicken up in some areas, like along the hat line here. You could, let me see. I'm going to try it. We'll see if I can make it look decent. But, you know, I feel like along this hat line, like, you can make it thicker up here to show that it's like, you know, it's a hat. It's darker, it's thicker, and then back here it would be a little bit darker and thicker. You know, you could just do a little, you know, it wouldn't be that thick, but you get the idea. Like, just a little bit more dynamic with the line work would be cool, possibly. Yeah, what I did doesn't really look that great, but I think you guys get the idea. Like, there we go. A little more dynamic with some of the line work overall everywhere. And just beware the colors, beware the proportions and stuff. But not a bad effort. Definitely not a bad effort. All right, let's go to the next one, folks. Yeah, this definitely looks like some kind of illustration or something. For sure. For sure, some kind of illustration. So definitely keep going with it. For sure, you could definitely improve on this. Like, I think they sent this in. They said it's just some kind of reference drawing. So this is kind of like a study maybe for a better, you know, more finished piece they want to do. So, so this is from, I believe this is Cubs Win. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this is from Cubs Win. So. Yeah, the last one was on graph paper, and I think I'm not 100% sure why they were doing that, but maybe it just helped them with the proportions and stuff the way they wanted to get it. So, all right, so this is Cubs Win watercolor here. It was a drawing, and she ended up watercoloring it. So pretty cool, really cool. I mean, it definitely fits a certain style. Just the eyes alone and the ears and stuff, and just the way it's painted and drawn, you can tell you have a very particular style. So I think it's really cool. I like the muted colors you have. I like the values, the way the light is hitting them, like the nose is lit up. It really makes the nose like stick out more. I really like that. It's pretty cool. Yeah, those eyes are just really looking at you, you know, just, I like did I say I like the muted colors? Yeah, I like the color scheme here. So you have a complementary color scheme going on, really cool. Blue and the orange, kind of rusty orange. I like that. You know, I could nitpick the proportions and stuff, but like I said, I really like that the eyes are different. I really like that this style you have is different. You know, I don't think you're necessarily going for like 100% accurate proportions and stuff. But if you were, the eyes are a little large, I think. A little large, but not that bad. Not too bad. I feel like the only other thing I can think of, you know, maybe some of this, I feel like the curve of the hat here, I feel like we could possibly, yeah, the proportions do seem a bit off, but it's in a way that's not, it doesn't bother me, if that makes sense. I'm not bothered by it, but I do feel like, you know, some of the curves of this hat would be like darker. And I don't know if I'm really using the right shade. It would probably be like a darker rust color. So I'd have to darken this down. You know, some kind of darker rust color, maybe darker still. Just to show that the hat's like curving around. This is like shadow. You know, I don't know if that's the case. It's kind of a little hard to tell. But, you know, maybe that would do something. I'm not exactly sure how this hat is sitting on his head. Like how it's... Emerge VS, there is no wait list. So if you want to send in one, just send it in now for the next critique, LiveStream 90. Just send it in. There's no wait list. So I feel like, yeah, and I'm trying to figure out where the light's coming from and where like the shadows would be, because I feel like we could have a shadow across his forehead like this to really give some depth to the to show that this hat is like sitting on his head. Like I said, I may not be using the right colors. I'm kind of just going with value here. Obviously would fade that a little bit more. You know, maybe shade his ears a bit as well. You know, I'm just playing with the lighting here a little bit, that's all. Just trying to figure out, you know, it just gives a little more focus to his face rather than, you know, really bringing, and I see his beard's really lit up down here against this dark. Good point, Nathan. So many people, he said, the good thing is that the eyes aren't white. So what he means by is that this area, the white of the eyes, so many people make the mistake and they leave that white when really in reality it's usually some kind of gray or mid-tone. You have them orange here, which is, it's kind of cool actually, because it really fits your whole color scheme. There's some kind of ochre-y, light ochre color, so that's pretty cool. It really fits the color scheme well. I feel like that the only white part of the paper, I mean, you have whites in his eyes for the highlights and maybe above his eyes. So you do have some contrast here, but it could just be me. I don't know. I'm just going to play around here. I feel like if we just darken this a bit, you know, maybe that kills the lighting a bit. But I feel like it's just too much contrast down there. Even if he did have a white beard, I don't know. It attracts my attention a little too much compared to the rest of the face, like his eyes. There's just too much, like I feel like there's too much contrast down there, too sharp, too much contrast, and it makes me want to. It just makes me want to tone it down just a little bit. You know, not a whole lot, maybe not even as much as I did it, but like a light glazing wash over that, just to fade it down a little bit. Because we want the light, if the light is from up above, so if the light is up above coming, let's say the light's coming from up here, like top middle-ish to the right or something. So really the lightest area would maybe like kind of where you have it, like above his eye, like if the rim of the hat is back far enough and his head's kind of tilted or something, you know, the light would be hitting his eye or his cheek or like his nose, and then everything else below that's going to be darker. You're not going to get as much light as you would. And actually, on one of the next things that I'm going to critique in this episode, on this live stream, I'll kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. But definitely if there's some kind of light hitting him, this stuff's going to be, it's going to go darker as it gets away from his face. And I think it's just a good way to plan it as well. So it looks like the shadow under his nose, it looks like the light's coming from like directly above him kind of. So if we're going to go with that, you could even make this a bit mysterious if you wanted and shade part of his eyes as well. And just have his nose be like the most part. Maybe, yeah, the top lip, you could darken that a bit more maybe. And then have some of that beard maybe be lit up. You know, maybe, I'm not sure where it'd be sticking out. Like I said, folks, I'm just playing around here. I'm just trying to, you know, we're trying to help each other make some good art. You know, and then the sides of his face, like show that they're curving back and into the shadow a bit. His ears would be darker. Just, you know, that's just one idea. You could even darken some of this just a bit. So now if we see that as kind of the lighting compared to what's there. You know, it's just, it's, you know, I don't know if it's all better, but this is just ideas, you know, just, you can make this as subtle as you want or stronger. It's just things to think about, things to play around with. But I hope this was helpful. Definitely a cool style. I mean, you definitely have some skill. I like the colors. I like the muted. And that's one thing a lot of people have trouble with usually is like getting muted colors, you know. And it's really not. It's not a hard thing to do. All you do is mix two colors together, and then slightly mix in one more, and you know, with the primaries, and you'll get this rusty kind of color, you know. Depending on what kind of colors you're using, but you could lighten the bottom of the beard more so you capture contrast between the beard and the shadow so it isn't flat. Yeah, but you don't want most of the contrast to be down here. That's the problem, is you don't want the contrast down by the beard. You want it to be, you know, you want the contrast more on the face, unless this drawing is about the beard, but I don't think it is about the beard, you know. But like I said, just ideas, just stuff to think about. And depending on somebody's chin, you know, the beard can actually go back and down underneath, you know. Come on, go. You know, if you look at my chin, you know, the part of my face that sticks out, if you guys look down here at me, is like my nose sticks out the most. My chin kind of goes back. You know, it's not always the case. Some beards stick like completely straight out, you know, it just depends. But, all right, so check it out. This is, thank you for sending that in, Cubswin. Really appreciate that. And great work. Keep up the great work. Keep up your unique style. Just keep painting, do what you do, and keep drawing, painting, and keep up the good work with the colors as well. So this is from Nathan. He's in the chat. Thanks for sending this in. So this is one from last time, but I didn't want to show this one. I wanted to show that this is Nathan's work now. And Nathan, when was this first watercolor that you sent in? How long ago was this? So the one that I'm going to be critiquing, I've already critiqued this one, folks, which I didn't really have much to say about it. It was really good. This is done by the same person. This is also Nathan this was his first watercolor, he says, years and years and years ago. So this one is the beginning, and this is where he is now. So this shows you guys what's possible. So this one's 20 years ago. So in 20 years, it probably didn't even take him that long, but in 20 years, this is the kind of stuff you can do. If you have the patience, you have the determination, the perseverance. I mean, that just shows you. So, but let's take a look at this one. You know, I don't really, it's gonna be hard for me to critique this one, man. But it's honestly for your very first watercolor. Oh wow, it is 20 years ago. So there's the date right there, 2000. I should have just looked at the date. Sorry about that. But so yeah, I just wanted to make a point that these are the same artists 20 years apart. See the difference if you guys just practice. And it doesn't take 20 years to get that good, you know? It doesn't have to. Depends on, you know, how dedicated you are, how many hours you want to put in, and what kind of style you want to go for, you know? You don't even have to paint that tightly. That's just his style. But anyway, this one's actually pretty good for your first one, to be honest. Really, my favorite part of it is down here in the bottom left. I love this. I used to have this same exact thing. It was a small little vase. I got it at an antique shop for still lifes. But I got rid of all my still life stuff. But wow. Yeah, I mean, the values you got here, you got really dark darks, you got the highlights, you got the midtones. The only thing that really bothers me is the greens in this, the green and some of the flowers, like the wildlife, the plant life in this bothers me a bit. I'm not really sure what this dark thing is down here. That's one thing that is kind of weird too. This painting took an hour. Okay, so this painting took an hour. How long did this one take you? Did this one take 50 hours, or was it the one with the leaves? I know this one took you way more than 1 hour, but this, okay, so this one's 1 hour effort. That's pretty good for 1 hour effort. But yeah, the green of the leaves bothers me. You got some good shapes and stuff, but I don't even need to critique this. I mean, you know what's good and bad with it, man. I mean, I'll just talk about it for other people. You know, I think we can all just kind of point out. I think we can all see like what's troubling with it. You know, it's hard to tell where the light's coming from because there's not a lot of shadows on the greenery. There's not a lot of shadow. I mean, a little bit of shadows on the fabric and stuff, but not a very strong light source. Yeah. But it's definitely not bad for your first one, dude. I mean, this is like, this is pretty good, man. Okay, so this one was 1 hour effort, which is pretty good. I feel like if you would have put 20 hours into this one, I feel like it could have been pretty good too. But so 20 hours on this painting. 20 hours on this painting done in 2020. How ironic is that? 2020, 20 hours. And this was 1 hour in 2000. So, I mean, your range of values is really good. I think it's just like, I mean, you know what's wrong with it, the subtlety of the colors, and you know, plants are green and this is, the thing is brown and this is silver. Like, I feel like everything is so separate, you know, instead of it being cohesive and like, it's cool to actually be able to compare both of these. You know, this thing, there's no clarity on what this is, like some kind of object, like who knows. It looks like it's like knocked over. It looks like some statue that's like laying on its side or something. But if we compare this one to, see how everything is so separate, like there's no like green reflections in the metallic thing. There's no like, you know, everything is so separate in the environment. But then when you look at this one, everything is so, you have it like, you know, you have purples on this part, purples in this part of the teacup, like there's so much harmony going on. You have everything so harmonious and softer in the background, you know, the little bit of rust or gold or whatever that is, gold on the edges of this, and like everything is reflecting into each other, you know, everything is melds together. And this other one, everything is so separate, you know, greenery, tablecloth, objects, you know. But yeah, yeah, it would be obviously the composition on this one too. It's like, you know, not the greatest, you know, but yeah, it would be funny to see. That's a good point. To see, somebody said, I would love to see Nathan repaint this now and compare the two. Yeah, that would be funny, man, but I don't think he probably wants to put any time into that. But it would be cool to see. Actually, it'd be fun to see you spend 1 hour and redo this one and see what you could do now in an hour. Like you'd probably do so much better. It'd probably be really crazy. But yeah, there you go, folks. That just shows you it's not about talent or whatever you think it is, talent and blah, blah, blah. Like, obviously, he knew a little bit about what he was doing. You know, there's some dark values here. You know, he knew how to set some things up and draw some things, but it doesn't mean he was, like, a great painter back then. Like, he had to work at it to get to where he is now. So, you know, that's just, it shows you that got to put the work in, put the time in. Thanks for sending that in, Nathan. That was really cool to look at and just really compare the two and just see, like, your progress, man. It's incredible. Really incredible. Great work, man. Great work. Keep it up. You inspire me, dude, for real. So even though being that tight is like, and spending 20 hours is not like my style, but it just pushes me to keep going at it and keep getting better, you know, like, yeah, I appreciate it. So, okay. So this one from somebody, I'm not sure their name. They didn't give their name. We have an I. How long have I been on here? 1 hour. Okay. Man, my throat's starting to hurt. I'm talking too much. Oh, man. I'm not used to talking every day like this. How many more do we have? Oh boy, we got to get through these, folks. This is gonna, I got to stick to the time. Okay. So this one's an eye. It's drawn really well. The values, got some dark values, got some light values. The photo isn't that great, but no biggie. We'll deal with what we got. Oh man, I'm gonna need some tea after this. Oh. So I like the subtle values here you have, the dark on the eyelid. The only thing that really bothers me is all these like branches coming off of the eye, like these eyelashes. They're too dark, too what's the word? They're all too similar. You gotta tone some of these down. So, make some. Oh, excuse me, folks. Make some of these lighter. Especially the smaller ones. Make the smaller ones lighter, and just some other ones a bit lighter. And even some of them, make some of them dark in some areas, but lighter in others. I think we just need some variety on these eyelashes. They're just a bit overpowering, and they just look like they're pasted on. I feel like we need like some kind of shadowing around the bottom edges of some of these, because they look like they're just like pasted on there. So we don't want that look. We want it to look like they're growing out of something. So just kind of fading that darkness a bit more, some kind of subtle values there. Same thing with the ones up above. Like, you get what I'm saying. Just try to lighten up some of these. Just be careful with making everything too uniform, too many of the same thing. It doesn't have to be, because that's not the focus. Like, you're not drawing this for the eyelashes. You know what I mean? You're drawing it for the eye. The focus is on that eye. So I would just tone all this down, like all these eyelashes. Just like, it's not important. The eyelashes, like, you gotta have eyelashes there a little bit, otherwise it'd look kind of weird. But definitely just tone all those down. Like, you don't need all those eyelashes. But I would kind of maybe darken up this part of the eye here. And the eye is actually like a sphere. So, all right, a few more seconds. The eye is actually a sphere. So I would actually do some more shading like towards the corners of the eyes, just to give it more of a spherical appearance and really push the values, or push the form of the eye, just to give it the idea that it's a sphere. So I hope that's helpful. Stuff like that. Doesn't have to be that dramatic, but yeah, I would still see even that. I would still tone down these eyelashes a bit more. There's just a little too much eyelashes. Make them softer. Make them. They're too. You have such subtlety and softness in the eye. Like around here, around the pupil and the iris and stuff, it's very soft. And then these eyelashes are just super hard. It's too much. So I would just kind of tone all that back. Try to keep the focus on what you want it to be on, and make the eye a bit more spherical. More shadow on the lower eyelid. Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yep. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, more shadow under here. Like, let's get some of this. Yeah. You want to be careful because you don't want it to look like someone's old or something, or tired, but yeah, just push that a little bit more. And then it makes that eyelid kind of pop out. Shade some of that eyelid a bit as it gets inward, something like that. Yep, boom. You know, doesn't have to be that dramatic, but you get my idea. Get the idea. Thanks for sending that in. Let's go to the next one. This one's from Sarah B. Thanks for sending this in. So this one's pretty cool. We got some toned paper here, some white and some darkness. A fox, looks like, I believe. It looks like it's drawn pretty large, I think, because if you look at the white pen marks, those are really small pen marks. So really cool. You definitely got the idea of fur with the cross hatching and stuff. I mean, it really looks like fur. Doesn't look too chaotic for the most part. You know, you got subtlety of values over the whole thing. You know, really subtle around the eyes. You left the paper, and then, you know, for the eyebrows and around the nose, did a little bit of shading there, and then really dark around the edges of the ears. You know, thicker lines in some areas. Overall, done really well. I think the foreground, you know, it's a little much with the darker, thicker black lines. You know, you just want to be careful about that. And it's a little too uniform, having them all just diagonal. It doesn't look very natural, I guess, compared to, you know, you have this natural looking fox, and then you have these like diagonal, straight, sharp lines for these like foreground, which I think is like grass or something. So I would just try to make those more curved, more, you know, a little more organic looking, just a little more natural overall. Yeah, the grass, like I said, grass is a bit distracting. I agree. You have a really interesting style with how you drew the animal. Obviously, it doesn't look, you know, it doesn't look super three-dimensional yet. And this is really the hardest, one of the hardest views to draw something is the way you did it. Like when the snout's coming toward you and there's foreshortening, it's very difficult to get that to look like it's coming towards you. It's very hard to do, especially when you're just starting out with drawing and stuff. But you handled it really well. It doesn't look too bad. I feel like the eyes are just a bit large maybe compared to like the nose and mouth. I feel like if that was coming more towards us, it would just be a little bit larger. I feel like around the ears, you know, just a little too thick there with the darkness. I feel like we need, see, you have like this black around the top of the head, the ears and stuff. I feel like we need that a little bit more around the face if we're going to use that thick, you know, possibly, or just kind of tone some of that down. Maybe just put thicker where the fox is actually really black. And maybe that's what you did, but you know, just be careful about that. Sometimes if you use something in one spot, like a little bit of something in one spot, you want to try to use it somewhere else so that it's more harmonizes a bit more cohesive. But yeah, this definitely looks like some kind of illustration. It's really cool. I mean, you definitely have a cool style with how you draw naturally. You know, the proportions do look really well. The eyes, like everything fits in. It looks a little cartoony and not realistic, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how you draw things, and I'd rather something look cartoony rather than like unrealistic, you know, because this, even though it's cartoony, you can tell exactly what it is. You know that it's some semi-realistic. Like it's cool. It's really cool, and I like what you did with the toned paper and everything. I forgot to put a timer on, but I think it's pretty much out of time here. I don't really have much else to say. I feel like some of the shadowing, I mean, you have some dark here at the top, really dark. I feel like you could have played around with some shadowing a bit more, maybe, possibly like underneath the head. And maybe that's not how the reference photo was that you were using, but it could be something to try to play around with. Like if you did some shadowing, let's get it all the way up here. If you did some shadowing, get the opacity up, like down at the bottom of him, underneath his head there, it really kind of helped like pop his head out a bit more, you know, and focus us on his head possibly, you know, just an idea. There's just something to try. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but you know, just an idea, just one idea there, Sarah. So I hope that was helpful, but thanks for sending this in. Keep up with the drawing, keep having fun with it. Looks pretty good. All right, we have this is from Sergio. I think he's still here. I saw him here earlier in the chat. Glad to hear, Light Warrior. Appreciate that. Hope it's going well. So this is from Sergio. I think this is this charcoal? Refresh my memory. Or is this graphite on illustration board or something? Yeah, try to refresh my memory if you can. I'm not exactly sure. Either way, it doesn't really matter what it was drawn with. We can critique it as it is. Try to critique it. I mean, this is really well done, really well. So yeah, this is graphite. I mean, how did you get graphite that dark, man? That's incredible. Really crazy. But yeah, I mean, the detail here, man, it's just on the face, all these little dots and stuff. This must be a big drawing, I imagine, to get all this little detail. Look at that, the eyelashes over the eyes, the mustache. I mean, this is graphite on Bristol board. Okay, graphite on Bristol board. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy, dude. This is really crazy. In a good way, really good way. So when I looked at this, when you sent me the email and I first saw this, my first thought, it's really good. And then I started thinking like, how am I going to be able to critique this? Like, what can I do that's going to improve? Like, how can we improve this at all? Because it's already really good. I mean, the amount of detail is crazy. Like, I've never put that much detail into anything. Like, that would drive me crazy to like do all the little tiny details, man. I'd have to be doing a really big drawing to get that detailed. So more power to you, man, to be able to have the patience to sit down and do that. But so when I look at this thing, I kind of saw this, I could see this as, so the dark background is graphite powder applied with a sponge. Okay, wow. Crazy, that must be some dark graphite powder. Wow. I have graphite, it's A4, I don't know how big A4 is. Is that like 8.5 by 11 or is that bigger? Sorry, I'm not international, so I don't know the A4, A3, all that stuff. Doesn't matter. But I've tried graphite powder and it doesn't get that dark, but yeah, pretty cool. Let me put a timer on, 2 minutes. Okay, so when I see this, my thought was that it reminds me of, okay, 8.5 by 11. Wow, that is crazy, dude. This is 8.5 by 11? Wow. That's insane. That's insane, man. So when I see this, I look at this as a, yeah, 21 by 29 centimeters. Yeah, that's like 8.5 by 11. Okay. All right. This reminds me of like a classical oil painting. Like I could see this being done as a classical oil painting. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny, like if I did this really quickly, I didn't even think about doing this, but just because I'm having fun. Like, you could literally... I mean, this could just be like... I mean, you could have color on this, and it's like, dude, this could be a painting. You know what I mean? Like, it could easily be a painting. It's crazy. But that's not what I wanted to point out. But it does remind me of like an oil painting. So what I learned when I did oil paintings, and I learned a lot about painting portraits and painting stuff like that, is like the lighting. And you did really well here with the lighting, because you do have the body down here darker. And this is what I was trying to point out earlier for Cubs Wind's piece that she submitted, which was right here. So I was trying to talk about the light, how the light down here, like the lightest part should be up here on the face, and then it gets darker and darker as it goes down. And areas that are smaller, like his chin, should be darker than like his forehead, because it's just so much darker. It's going to absorb less light. You're going to see less light. So what I've learned from that is, like, let's say, I'm not exactly sure where the light's coming from. It looks like front right a little bit, possibly like over here. So what I would do, actually I would leave the light the way it is. I would just add, I'm going to add shadowing. I'm going to try not to mess this up, but I probably will. But it's okay. Like, I feel like if we even pushed... Am I even doing anything? Okay, I think I am. It's just so subtle. I can't even see it. Is it? Is it doing... Oh, it's not doing it. Okay. Start over. Okay. I'm going to see if we can push this just a little bit more. So we darken this, right? And then darken chin slightly. Darken this slightly. And then we got to get more subtle here. Darken this slightly. And maybe even some of the nose. Probably right here. Oh, too much, too much. Definitely darken this a bit. Just give me a second, folks. I'm just focusing on... What I'm trying to do is get very, very, and this is so much easier to do in digital. And by the way, this might be different than your photograph and stuff, or like what you were using. You know, I'm going by, or it might be different than what it looks like in person. That's what I meant to say. You know, I'm going off the photograph you gave me. So this ear, I would tone down this ear a bit, because the ear's much smaller shape. So smaller shapes are going to appear darker. And so what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get our focus to basically have, and I might be changing the light source a bit here, but let's say the light source is coming up from the right a little bit, and we'll put, just for the sake of it, let's do this, and then we'll brighten it up a little bit. Like I said, it might not be possible to do this, what you did, but like let's say like the highlight is like over here somewhere or something, you know, like the lightest part, you know what I mean? So if the lightest part is here, just theoretically, I'm not saying that's where it is, you know, you would have a little bit of light on the cheek maybe too, and maybe the nose, but you would want this part up here to be the lightest part, biggest part. Everything else that gets lower from that spot, lower on the body, lower on the face, and you already did that, like I said, it would get darker. You know, the ear, I would darken that down because, you know, it's smaller shape. That side of the face, darken that down. So, and just have like these small highlights or whatever. Those aren't even really necessary. I'm just trying to illustrate my point that like at this one spot would be like where that light, if it's like a spot kind of light like this, like a spotlight, like it would be hitting that one spot, maybe another one slightly, like the cheek or something. You know, just slow, and like I said, like the chin down here, it's such a smaller shape, so it's going to be less light. It's going to appear less light than like the forehead where it's being lit up, or the cheek or something, especially because it's further away from the light source as well. So if we take this stuff off, it's still not a bad drawing. Like everything I did was just super subtle. Like, yeah, you're right, Nathan. It might be two light sources actually, because if you do look at this side of the face like this, it's more lit up over here. So he might have some kind of reflector. If this is like some kind of the reference photo he was using, if it's some kind of portraiture photography, there could have been like a reflector bouncing that reflected light onto that side of the face. So I'm like I said, what I'm talking about here is all theory. It's not necessarily like what he should do to this drawing or anything. It's just kind of like, this is an idea of how to think about it and like really put the brightest highlight in one spot, you know, like, or maybe another spot, like something like that. And then everything else from that point, all the smaller shapes and lower shapes away from the light source get darker and darker. That's basically all I'm trying to illustrate. And I hope that makes sense to you, Sergio. But like I said, I'm nitpicking this, man, and I'm just trying to be very subtle and just try to get the point across. Like, I just wonder how much you can push this. Like, maybe the body doesn't need to be that light. Yeah, you're right. Actually, there might be two light sources, because if the body is lit down here, the light source couldn't be coming from up over here, because this would all be in shadow, right? Like, wouldn't this be shadowed down here under his face? You know, I don't know, but we don't want to lose the body, because that is, since you have that in there, it's kind of an important aspect, somewhat. But no, this is really great, Sergio. Thanks for sending this in. I kind of went a little longer, but I felt like it's important to just really point out these subtleties, because it's cool to talk about this kind of stuff and think about like how, you know, could you push it a little bit more, like some of the contrast, and make it a better, you know, I don't know. I think for sure maybe just like playing around with the ear a little bit, and maybe the chin or something, you know. Like I said, it's all up to you, but as it is right now, I mean, this is an amazing piece. So definitely thanks for sending that in, man. Let's get through these next ones. I've been on here for a long time. Okay. So this one's an interesting painting here. 60 plus hours on that drawing. So, wow, that's incredible, man. That's really incredible. I haven't done anything longer than 60 hours in my entire life. I don't think I've drawn my whole life longer than 60 hours. So this painting, really interesting. So this person said it was like the topic of women, and they did it for school. There's like a school thing, and their topic was women. So this is what the painting they did. I like how like the line work's different. Like they have a background that it's kind of abstract. It's different from the background. They have like this abstract feel going on. It's really interesting. It's pretty interesting. It's hard for me to kind of critique this, because it's so expressive that it's hard for me to really. Honestly, it's hard for me to critique, because it's just not the kind of thing that it's not really I don't really know a whole lot about it, to be honest, but I like the use of color that you have. It definitely evokes a certain kind of emotion. The blue kind of creates a sadness, and then the figure, the portraits look kind of somber, or like kind of sad. So it's really evoking an interesting emotion when I see it. That's kind of what I get from it. Yeah. No, this isn't my longest live stream ever, but it's My longest one was the other critique, which was like 2 hours. I'm trying to not make this one 2 hours, but we're at an hour and 25 minutes right now, so that's about normal live stream. So I just got to get through these and stay on topic, stay on point. But like I said, I don't have a lot to say about this one. I like the use of the line work and the black and everything. I like the emotion that it evokes. It's very different. It's very interesting. I like the abstract background. I just feel like it's a little dark, you know, some of the colors, it's just a little dark or something, but it's hard for me to critique this one without just giving my opinion on it, you know, like, but yeah, I don't think there was like a reference photo for this, but yeah, I think it's good. I think you evoke some kind of emotion. That's probably what you were trying to do, and it's definitely cool. It's definitely interesting. I like the proportions on the figures and stuff. You have an interesting style. But other than that, that's all I got on it, and time is over. So let's get to the next one. Try to go through these last few. Oh man, I'm really working hard today. I ran out of water. Oh no, my throat's killing me. Okay. All right, so this one was a Bob Ross tutorial someone followed. This was their first time painting, they said, I believe. So thanks for sending this in. This was done with acrylics, so it was not done with oils. So that's also interesting as well. Let me start the timer. Yeah, so this was someone's first time painting. Pretty good. I mean, pretty good for first time and using acrylics and stuff. Definitely cool. I mean, you got the idea of the landscape. Perspective's pretty nice. You know, we get depth in the distance and the background. You know, it's hard following a Bob Ross tutorial. You know, they're all, it's very a well-known style that's kind of overdone. I think we all know that. But I think it is important in the beginning to like follow tutorials and just get an idea, try to get an understanding of how to mix colors and how to paint stuff, how things are structured and compositionally and stuff. You learn a lot from tutorials in the beginning. You know, I watched a lot of him when I first started painting back in 2011. I watched a lot of his stuff, and then I just started branching out and did my own thing. And I think you should do that as well. You know, do a few more of these and then get some photos and just start doing your own thing, start branching out, and try not to follow too many of these kinds of tutorials because they've just been done so many times. Yeah, be careful with using black in the future. Like I don't recommend using black like that. It just doesn't look realistic. It just looks very flat, very dead. It's too dark. It's not very natural. You don't really see black in nature like that very often. Normally in nature you only see black on like burnt trees or something. It's very dark shadows on like a cloudy day underneath rocks and stuff. You'll see like very, very dark, warm, dark accent. But yeah, overall, I mean, this isn't done bad. It's not bad. You have a good variety of greens and yellows and stuff. You know, I'd even push that a little bit more. Make some like reds into your greens. Mix a little bit of red, a little bit of brown. Warm them up, cool them down. I like to see some more warms and cools within the greens and the shadows. Yeah, I think I think like the background here, that's a good point. Someone just points out they would go for like a dark green. So like for this area back here, instead of being like this dark brownish black, like make it some kind of very cool green, you know, almost a blue or something. You know, we're getting a lot of distance back here, so it's going to be cooler in the background and also lighter. It's not going to be that dark. So something like this maybe. You know, and you want to vary it up a little bit. You don't want it to be all one value, but some kind of coolness back there. You can make some areas be a bit cooler and lighter, you know, get some blues back in there, and then really push. I'm almost done here, folks. I got the time just ran out, so you know, some of these greens, I feel like maybe you could warm them up. I feel like since, you know, we need some warmth here in the foreground, like, you know, it's a dirt path. We need like dirt on the ground. We need like some dirt and stuff showing, you know. We just need some different, you need some reds in these greens, you know, to really just have some variety and really push the color temperature. But you know, more browns and stuff in these trees. There's a lot more brown and greens and stuff than you think. Usually greens are much warmer than most people think. But overall, yeah, not a bad effort for your first time. Let's go to the next one. Thanks for sending that in. So this is from Veek Ryder. Thanks for sending this in. Let's start the timer. 3 minutes. Boom. Good point, Nathan. Mix your own black and add other colors into your store-bought blacks. Yeah, exactly. I always do that, you know. I do use ivory black on its own sometimes, but in watercolor, when you do that, it's gray. I'm not using it as a black, I'm using it as a gray. And normally I do like cool it down or warm it up. But if I'm creating like a very dark, I don't use ivory black. I go for transparent red oxide and ultramarine blue. A little bit of alizarin crimson, stuff like that, you know. Get like a warm dark or a cool dark. So anyway, sorry, let's start this timer over. All right, Veek Ryder, check it out. So we got a drawing of a rose here. This is graphite on Canson paper, it says. So really nice, really good work. I really love the softness. I love seeing that for once. That's one of the things most folks don't do. They don't get the softness down, you know. And I think you really got the softness here. I like it. Yeah, I like the softness. I like the softness here. I should have looked at the. You had a link to the. You typed up a link here to the reference photo. I should have looked at the reference photo, but I did not. So I'm gonna just critique this as you sent it to me. Unfortunately, I apologize. More contrast? Yeah, definitely more contrast, I think. You do have some really darks in some of these some areas, so that's good. But I feel like overall it needs more darks or something. I was gonna say that it needs more contrast overall. Like you know, you have these little bits of dark here. It's a little distracting compared to the rest. I feel like either you need to lighten up more everything or darken some things, you know, like maybe darken here, darken there, we can darken this, maybe like I said, I'm not looking at the photo reference, so I probably have to see that. I'm sure it doesn't get this dark, but see, even adding in just those little bits that I did, it kind of balances out this middle part that you went really dark on. So it gives more rhythm to the piece. You're kind of jumping around a bit more. You see that? Just adding that little tiny bit, it just adds a little bit more balance to the piece overall. You know, you could maybe darken this up or something. I don't know. Depends on the lighting, you know. I'm not sure how the lighting is on this piece. But, you know, the leaves maybe could be darker or something. You know, the more you darken up some things, it really pops out other areas. I'm sorry, guys. This brush I'm using is very textured and stuff, but hopefully it gets the idea across. Can I turn down the hardness? Oh, I can make it softer, it seems. Possibly. But, yeah, just more balance in the darks, you know. either, like I said, either darken up everything else to, because that's just a little distracting, or the other thing you can do is just lighten those up a bit, just so it fits. See, everything kind of fits together a bit more now if you lighten that up. Yeah, good point. Nathan points out that one of the petals needs more of a hard edge. Yeah, I agree. I think you need some more hard edges in this, actually. Maybe up here. I think I like the softness you have everywhere, but I think the focus, I think you just need a little bit more hard edges in certain places. Like right here, maybe. Really push more of I can't make it with this brush, but yeah, just hard edges a little bit more in certain places to kind of make our focus kind of jump around a bit, move us around this piece. Maybe over here, like sharper edge here where the edge of this flower is in this one petal. Just small things like that, subtle things like that. But yeah, edges and value. I think that's the focus here. But overall, it's not done very, very badly. It's done really well. I think just pushing some of the more of the contrast and really tightening up the edges a bit, giving us some more. See, like we need some more definition around some of these edges. They all just kind of blend together because they're all the same value. And I think like something over here, like we just need more separation in some of these areas, like just a little more darkness, just to like, yeah, you see what I mean? Just more definition in some of these areas for like, just harden up some of the edges a bit. But anyway, you get the idea. Thanks for sending that in. Oh, and that's the last one, folks. That was the last one. Wow. Boy. Be sure to check out my website, shaverfineart.com, folks. I got drawings for sale, paintings for sale, all that kind of stuff, and you can support me on there. You can donate to me, Patreon, PayPal, Venmo, Bandcamp. Check it out. Wow. Wow. Hope that was helpful for you guys. We went through a lot of different styles, a lot of different problems, but thanks everybody for participating, sending that in. Thanks everybody for the comments and pointing things out and helping out everybody. If anybody has any comments last minute, or questions last minute, I'll answer them. But yeah, the interesting thing about this is it's always the same kind of problems cropping up every time. It's either like edges, soft or hard edges, color, more muted color, values, darker, lighter. It's all these same problems, drawing, proportions. It's just focusing on those certain aspects within all your art and, trying to push it to the next level. And no worries, Philip. I appreciate you tuning in, but yeah. Anyway, guys, just reading the chat there. I think I'm gonna get off here. Oops. Just scroll through these one last time real quickly. Everybody can see all the great work you guys are doing. There's a lot of good work being done, for sure. So, definitely a lot to learn, a lot of subtle things. But, yeah, anyway, guys. Wow, I didn't know that, Nathan. You're primarily a portrait artist. Man, yeah, send in a portrait, dude. I want to see that. I'll do my best to critique it, man, but I feel like you should be critiquing this stuff because I'm not that good, man. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys on the next one tomorrow. Watercolor. Take care. Peace.